You are listening to the Let Me Overthink About It podcast, where I dive into a series of topics that occupy my anxious mind. I'm Sam Madore, overthinker extraordinaire. This week, I'm overthinking about learning to find joy with Tara Thorne. Tara is a recovering journalist and arts worker in Halifax. She's a filmmaker, an author, a musician, an all-around awesome human, and I can't wait for you to hear our chat. Find out more about Tara in the show notes and by listening to our conversation now. I am here with Tara Thorne. Hey, Tara.
Hey, Sam.
It's so nice to see you.
It's so nice to see you. We're not that far apart, but far enough that we don't run into each other anymore.
It's true. I feel like such a non-Halifax person anymore. Like I go and I don't even recognize Halifax anymore. It's insane.
I also don't, and I'm here all the time.
Like all the places, I don't know, like I just feel so nostalgic for especially like South End, Halifax, when I went to St. Mary's there and all of that. And now when I go to South End, I'm like, I don't even know.
I know. Well, I don't go to the South End that often, but I have been there the last little while, and I'm like, oh, they knocked down whatever, and this is a condo now. Yeah, I've been lamenting the loss of like cool Halifax lately, like a lot this year. Like there's no cafe culture anymore. Like, do you remember going and like spending a whole day sitting in a cafe?
Oh man,
And that's
yes.
what everyone did. Like,
Yep.
and you didn't, this was pre-laptop, not to be 100 years old, but like you just hung out there and you like did your homework or you read or you talked to people. And that's just what people did. Now they all close at like 4 o'clock and
I know.
um, everyone is on their laptop and it's not as social as it used to be.
I agree. And I'm not generally a social person, but that was like the social that I could tolerate. Like that was
Yeah.
like the way to be social because I could dive into whatever book I had in front of me or whatever if I didn't want to talk to other people, but you also had the option to do it.
Yeah, and now I go to cafes sometimes just to mix up my life, and I don't know anyone, and
You know?
yeah, it's not fun, and they're like deliberately designed to encourage you to move on. Like, there's no couches, like the days of
Yeah.
like Cafe Mocha, or like my favorite was always the Second Cup on Spring Garden Road. That's
Me
now
too.
Lululemon. Yeah, it's
Yes.
those times are dead, and I feel really old saying things like that because I mean, I guess it's inevitable, but it's true. The city's just changed so much, and you would like to think it's probably for the better in some ways, but it doesn't
In
feel
some
it.
ways, I'm sure it is, but not for the nostalgic humans that
Hmm.
were there, 20 years
Yeah,
ago.
yeah.
So I want to dive into your book in particular, Tara, because
Okay.
I loved it.
Oh, thanks.
I haven't had the chance to share that with you yet, so I'm sharing it with you now. I
Amazing.
absolutely loved it. First of all, and obviously you're not supposed to judge a book by its cover, but I love the title and I love the cover. So that was for me already a sell.
Well, thank you. The book by its cover is a thing that people do. It is 100% something you do. And when Nimbus offered me the deal, I said, "Can I bring my own designer?" And they were like, "Well, who is it?" And I said, Megan Fields, who used to be the production manager at the Coast. That's how we know each other. She's designed all my records, and I just and she designs for Invisible Publishing. So they're like, if Invisible will let Megan do it, like we're fine with it. And that's what we did. And I wanted it to look like a book at Urban Outfitters, and I think it does.
Love that. That's so
Yeah,
cool. And the name, the title. I mean, obviously, I believe it's the title of your final essay that's in the book as well.
yeah,
Am I right in saying that?
yeah.
So, can I ask, like, where that title came from? Why that title of your essay became the title of the whole book?
Yeah, I think because, I got that book
Wait, we
offer
should say the
because,
title.
oh, sure, Low Road Forever.
Yes, sorry. I'm not a
Um,
professional.
It's fine. I am, and I didn't do it. I was, I guess I should say. I got fired from CBC in 2020, and when that happened, a bunch of things came out of it. A bunch of good things came out of it, and one of them was this offer to from Nimbus to do this collection. And I got fired for like this kind of shitty reason. Like the inciting incident was shitty, and then the reason was shitty. But it was about basically tweeting about my neighbor's sex life, and my neighbor happened to be dating the premier's son. So this caused a big to do at CBC, and they ended our business relationship. They don't call it firing because I wasn't working for them. I was on contract.
On contract,
Um,
yeah.
so it was sort of this tacky reason to be fired in the first place. And then just from like 20 years of working in the arts, and having people tell you, like be professional and don't like trash talk the wrong people because you never know when you might need them down the road, which is true in some
Yeah,
instances. But the longer I lived in that, the more I realized that no, it was just a means of control. It was just a means of fear to be like, no, everyone should be on the level, everyone should be good. But really, it was so you didn't call certain people out, you didn't
yeah,
identify their behavior. And so I began saying, like, just in my regular life, like, don't take the high road, like, take the low road. You might as well, because you're going to end up in the same place. So you might as well
right.
go down swinging. So, so
But
that,
in a lot of ways too, though, Tara, go down swinging, but also just feeling better about having been able to voice your own feelings about stuff, right? Like
totally just
the
like
way you're
standing up for yourself, and yeah, and just like advocating for yourself. And so when they Whitney Moran, who I also worked with a little bit at the Coast, which is sort of like my whole life, I that's most of my social circle comes from there. um she didn't like it. She's like, I don't get it. And then when she read the essay, she's like, I was wrong, I get it.
yeah, I loved it. I got it right away and I loved it.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's really cool. And it's so funny because you said you identify mostly with the coast, or a lot of your social group came from the coast. And the style of writing, like I loved, there was one, I'm gonna cheat and open the book, but there was actually one
Sure.
of even just the praise for your book was great when you say it's rare for a book to create the feeling of meeting a long lost kindred spirit. And I feel like the writing from this mirrors the writing, obviously it's your same writing from the coast, like if you were
Yeah.
giving a review or whatever, it's just like you're
Yeah.
chatting with a friend.
That's cool. Yeah, it's sort of like that was the amazing thing about coming up in an alt weekly as opposed to like the Chronicle Herald or something that would have a very kind of staid stoic style guide. Like because it was an alt weekly, you were encouraged to develop a voice. And
Mhm.
so that's something that I got to do early on and for a long time. And so it's really the only voice I know how to write in.
Fair. Yeah, fair. I love I personally, one of my favorite styles of book to read is, and maybe it's laziness on my part, but is a collection of essays, just because
Me too.
they're so short and sweet. And
Yeah.
no, I shouldn't say they're always short and sweet, but they're always condensed, and you can
Yeah.
to one, and you don't have to read them in sequence even if you didn't want to.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really do like that style for sure. Was
That's
that
why I
was
like
that your
that's
choice?
Yeah, it was. I mean, I don't have I mean, never say never, I guess, but I had no desire to write fiction, or like there's no like story that
Mhm.
I want to write that's I'm desperate to share with the world. And I kind of, even when I was like, who wants to read my opinion on stuff? And so we kind of I tried to push it into a place of like cultural criticism that's also about my life a little bit, because it has to be, because like if there's no personal connection, why would you read anything? So yeah, I took inspiration. I don't actually read a lot, but I always read one celebrity memoir a year. This year it was Page Boy. But so like Lena Dunham put out a book of essays, Mindy Kaling's got a couple, Tina Fey's got one, Amy Poehler's got one. And so when I was kind of figuring out what the book should be, I revisited all those kind of collections to be like, this is, I mean, and they're famous, so they're like their life. The first half of the book is like less interesting because it's about their lives before they got famous. But then it's like, and then I was the head writer of Saturday Night Live, and I'm like, yeah, here we go. Like I don't have anything like that. But yeah, it was that was sort of I couldn't see what else it would be, and unless they wanted like long form reviews of something. I don't even know, but yeah, if it were up to me, it would have been kind of all pop culture. But I think we needed to fade
Yeah.
in a little bit, like mix it up a bit more.
Well, and it's cool to weave that in. And
Yeah,
honestly, so I have to go back a little bit, because I was honestly reading it going, okay, I'm waiting for the SVU, like the essay on SVU. I was just like, I have to, like, that's
yeah,
how I identify you, is through Olivia Benson.
yes. Did you see the musical? Were you still? Oh my God, you worked on the
Yeah.
musical. What an asshole!
You're
You
not
have
an asshole at all. This was like 20 whatever years ago. I don't even know.
Well, and we did it twice. We did it twice.
So, and when I read that in the thing, I was like, holy crap, I totally missed that second iteration of it. I didn't even
Yeah,
hear that you guys were
I
doing it.
did yeah, I did a remount like maybe 5 years later or something like that. And yeah, it was just as fun. But yeah, you were stage managing that in the giant dance space, which we've been
Yes.
rehearsing in a room the size of this room. And then they're like, here's your venue. It's 10 times larger. It's like great. I love doing that show. It's so fun.
Speaking, I loved it too, and it's really funny because I just cleaned out my basement. I'm a hoarder of writing. Like I do not
Yeah.
get rid of anything I've ever written. I've got like journals that are embarrassing and all of those things, but I found the script.
Oh
Um,
my goodness.
yeah, like probably about 6 months ago or so, and I was like, oh my God, it just took me right back. And it took me back. Speaking of being an overthinker, I don't want to talk too much about this, but um I remember either missing a cue or being too early on a cue of the chung chung once during one of the productions, and I've never forgotten or forgiven myself.
I remember that too. It wasn't you. It was like the cursor was in the wrong place on the screen.
Right? Is that what it
And
was?
it was like, so it's like, I don't know if you hit space bar and you should have hit the cursor or vice versa, but that's all it was. Yeah. I
Clearly,
remember,
I've never forgiven myself for it.
isn't it so funny? Now that I direct movies, now that I direct movies, but it's like I have a lot of actors in my life now, and they're
Yeah,
always like, they never let the one thing go. And I'm like, I don't even know what you're talking about, usually. And if
yeah.
we talked to anyone who had been at that show, they would have been like, oh, yeah, I missed the music cue. Like, they wouldn't even remember.
No,
But we'll take it to our deathbeds, clearly.
that's right. I'll never. Every time I hear it, no, just kidding. That's not the case. I watch a lot of SVU repeats, so that's not the case
Mm-hmm.
at all. But I was happy to see you dedicate partial, at least part of one of your essays to Olivia Benson and SVU, and
Yeah.
actually take like what I liked about all of your essays was spinning them a little. Like they all started with pop culture, and in some cases, and but it also you made it about your life. You wove it
Mm-hmm.
into the story of your life and kind of where you were at certain times and how
Mm-hmm.
things might be different now from when you were, loving on SVU and all that jazz.
I know. It was actually all of those essays. I would say I would write them up to like 90% and then I couldn't find endings for so many of them. And my good friend Allison Saunders, I worked at the Coast with for a long time, and she was in the reboot of the SVU musical. She said, because you always end your stories on a quote. Like what
Mm,
in journalism I would usually open and close with a quote from the source, because like that made sense to me because it's their story.
yeah.
And so it's like you can't quote yourself. So I had to like, it was Steph Domet being the editor, which was like 50% of the reason I even said yes to writing the book. She was so invaluable in that way, where I was just like, I need you to help me. Like, I don't know how to wrap this up. So it was like,
Yeah.
it was complicated in some cases. Although I honestly, it's like a fever dream. I have very little memory of actually writing the book.
Okay. Oh, that's
Yeah.
interesting.
I sat in this room and just cranked it out. And yeah, I don't really have a memory.
It's so cool. I love that. It actually makes it even better. That's awesome. So going back to, and I don't want to talk too much about CBC, but I do want to just go back to you mentioning how so many good things came out of that firing. And I just love that perspective of, taking something bad that happened, obviously, and flipping it and turning it into something positive. And I love how you've done that in the book.
So when you are in a job for a long time, we all know this, people assume you're happy and that you don't want to do anything else. So no one thinks of you. When something comes up, no one thinks of you. Or no one is sitting at a publishing house going, maybe Tara Thorne wants to write a book. It's like, no, because people think I would go to CBC for half an hour a week and people think I had a desk there. You know what I mean? Like, no one really has a concept of freelance life or like what your life is.
Yeah.
So when that happened, luckily, I'd already gotten funding for my first feature. It hadn't been announced yet, but I knew that it had happened, which thank God, because I might have used the New C steps. Like it was bad. And then like that it happened August 10th, and by Labor Day weekend I had this movie, I had the meeting about the book, and Tim Bousquet had come to me about doing a podcast, and he paid me the same as CBC did. So I came out better in the end. And it's and like and if you had asked me at the time, even if you asked me now, like I didn't think CBC was holding me back. Like, why would it? It's like
Mm.
8 minutes a week or whatever. I would have done it. I would have done it forever until I aged out of it, and they had just like asked me to leave. Um, but clearly there was some dark energy connected to it, or some reason I needed not to be there.
Yeah.
Um, and it's unfortunate the way it happened, and I would do that differently. Like, I don't. There are relationships that are ruined. There are like people that I have awkward vibes with now. That's too bad, um but clearly it needed to happen.
Yeah. And, and obviously, like you wouldn't wish that on anyone, obviously, that feeling of being fired and publicly and all of those fun things. But the outcome being, and the book is amazing, but also I had a chance to see your film Compulsus recently when you came to
Yes.
Toronto, which was cool.
Yeah, it was so fun to do that.
Yeah, you talk a lot about, I'm jumping around here, but you talk a lot about small town, growing up in a small town, and same. And I'm back here in Truro, grew
Yeah.
up here, back here. And like, it's hard to find things to do that feel cultural in any capacity sometimes. And so it's
Hmm.
nice to see things like this coming up in Truro over the last few years, going
Yeah,
to an independent film.
definitely. The Truro Pride Society did a great job.
Mm.
They had a ton of events going on, and they I don't know. I mean, I was only there for that one day, which was also prom night in Truro. It was very funny. I like went to a bar, and everyone, there were all these like children in sparkly dresses.
Amazing. I didn't make that
But
connection at the time.
yeah, but it was a really, really fun night.
Yeah, it's really cool. And I know that, or I feel like basically from reading your book that that's your passion really is to do film and to be able to produce and write.
Yeah, it
Direct.
is. The thing about it though, it's an expensive hobby because it's not a job per
Yeah.
se. Not in this country. I mean, it can be. It certainly isn't for me yet. And I'm sitting here. I have not. So I made a movie this year. We did a month of pre-production in September, and then we shot from October 2nd to November 1st. So I have not gotten a paycheck since I walked out of my actual job in September. And it's like
Oh man.
Christmas, and I'm just like waiting for I'm like, the freelance checks could still come in, maybe.
Yeah.
So it's like really, really stressful.
Yeah.
But then, that month is amazing. It's like, first of all, you get free food all day long. That's very helpful.
Yes.
And because of the type of schedule it is, it's like a 10 to 14-hour day, depending on what's happening. It just consumes your whole life in the best way. And it was like the best experience I've ever had. Um, Making an artistic project, and I'm really proud of it. And now we're editing it, and it's gonna be a big part of my year next year. But I'm in this weird in between period right now where I've got about 6 months of like nothing happening. We're just like
Yeah.
getting it ready for stuff to happen, and then we have to like get accepted to things and blah blah blah. And like we're talking to a distributor about Compulsus, so that might come out next year, but there's all these like question marks right now. So it is what I want to do, but it's really hard to get momentum going, and it's really hard to get kind of consistent money, because there's lots of money for producing and there's lots of money for directing. There's very little money for writing. Like, they just want you to show up with the script. It's like, cool. This took time, this thing that we're building, putting all this money into, like, do you think it fell out of the sky, you know?
Yeah. That's the whole root of the whole process,
Yeah.
actually.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's frustrating, but like the payoffs are really great, but it's just they're kind of few and far between, and with a lot of stress on top.
Yeah. Well, I can't even imagine that. And also just being an impatient person, like I would just want it to be done now. Okay, I did it. Here, watch it. It's great.
Well, my year this time last year, you could only apply for funding once a year. You get one shot, and if you're rejected, you have to wait a whole other year. So this time last year, we were like putting our package together. We submitted it in January. We had a meeting in March, and they didn't tell us till May. So I already have a night guard. But I had a huge toothache, and I happened to have a dentist appointment. I'm like, my tooth hurts. She's like, I don't know. There's nothing wrong with it. And it was the stress. And I was working with a few people who also had put in applications in, and we were all talking all the time. And I'm like, I'm fine. I accept fate. It's gonna happen the way it's gonna happen. But I'll tell you, the relief I felt when I got the phone call was insane.
That weight is just awful. And especially, so would you identify yourself as an overthinker?
Yes.
Yeah.
Triple Virgo. Like I'm not fun.
Yeah,
Like,
I remember reading that now that you say that actually in your book too. But because especially in the waiting, being an
yeah.
overthinker is just like
Yes.
would just be torture.
And you know this, to what end? To what end
Right.
are we thinking so much?
Yeah.
None. But like what else are you supposed to do?
And when I hear people like I actually my husband is not an overthinker and I actually have had conversations with him like so like you honestly just stop thinking about like you're done thinking about that like how like I'm trying to kind of get into his brain like how is it possible to not just have a narrative constantly going in the back of your head?
Yeah. Yeah. Good for them. I wish. I really do.
Yeah, me too. Although I don't know, maybe that just makes us part of who we are, I guess. I don't know. I take a break, let's put it that way. One of the pages I actually flagged from your book is one of my favorite things that you said. It's, and I'm paraphrasing, do not wait for permission from other people to do something or whatever. But I did write this down as a direct quote throw the book in the fucking sea and go do it. That to me, because again, as an overthinker, somebody who puts things off because what if this, what if that? It's such a good message, Tara. And so, what can you just speak to about that right now in terms of things you have not done or things that, like the book or the movie, that you finally were just like, fuck it, I'm going to do it?
Yeah, I think that comes out of like from years of not doing it. Of just like wait, because like it feel, and especially in the arts, you're always waiting for someone else to give you the money or
Yeah.
give you the or like let you into the festival or like whatever. But sometimes you just have to do it, and and I think for me, a fear held me back. Like a lot of us have imposter syndrome, or a lot of us think, oh, I'm not ready, or I don't deserve to be here. And
Yeah.
it's just not true. And there's a lot of people that don't think about that. They're just like, I have this thing I want to do and I'm going to do it. And however it turns out is neither here nor there for anyone else. Like, but how does it affect your life? Like, did you accomplish the things that you wanted to accomplish with that? And so, once I decided to do that, I can be harsh about it sometimes. I should I say this? I had a weird little fight with my producer where she was like, this we might have to push if this happens. And I said, I'm not waiting, like very
Mhm.
bluntly.
Yeah.
And then like we had a little like tiff about it. She's like, that was really mean. And I'm like, I'm sorry it was, but like it's also true. Like because I'm a late bloomer and because I was afraid for so long, I started things so late. Like, I don't have time to fuck around anymore. So it's like
Yeah.
I'm doing it, and people, because I write a lot of scripts, and people are like, you're so prolific, and it's like, well, no, I just didn't think I could before, and also, I was paralyzed by sadness for 3 years, which is neither here nor there, but it's like it just took me a long time to like get to a place where I felt like it was okay for me to A, want things, and B, that they had value that other people would want to see, which I think is the great artistic question. It's like, why does someone else care about this? And I'm sure you found this too, like one thing begets the next thing. So like I made Compulsus, and in editing that, we had an editing gap where there was like a COVID lockdown, so we couldn't work on it. But I had all this propulsive creative energy coming off the shoot, and nowhere to put it. So I wrote a new script called Lakeview, and that's the movie we just made. So and then like now there were some musical sequences in Lakeview, so I'm like, I think the next I want to do a musical. And I've also got a romantic comedy, and I've also got a road movie, like just sort of exploring all these options, and some of them will get made and some of them won't, but it's like I think um there's just no reason not to do it anymore. If you can like
Yeah.
live a creative life, you should do it, because life is very difficult, and find joy wherever you can. And I'm not a happy person, and I'm not a positive affirmation type of person, but like honestly, wherever you can dig it up, it's worth it.
100%. And I love hearing you say that one sort of leads to the other, because it's like once you get on that creative streak, it's so sometimes overwhelming because it's like, where
Yes.
do I start? Right. It's like,
Yes.
oh, I've got all these great ideas. And it's
Yeah.
just like, vomit. But I love that. Once you break that open, it can lead to so
Mhm.
many other things.
Totally. I'm Patti Smith wrote this great book called Just Kids, and she talked about how she has to do something artistic every day, even if like she's going to bed and it's 11:30 p.m. She'll like take a Polaroid of something to be like, I
Oh,
made one thing today. And I wish I had that kind of discipline. I don't, but I love the idea of
yeah.
it.
I
It's
love
so
that
because it's
too.
rewarding and it's just for you.
Yes. Oh, I love that too. That might actually be, I don't really buy into New Year's resolutions, but that might be a fun, like, New Year's resolution type thing to do.
Yeah, make art every day.
Yeah, something little or whatever. Yeah, no, that's
Yeah.
awesome. And you're into astrology. This is something I learned about you. I did not know
Mm.
this.
Yes,
Um,
because I'm an atheist, so I need to believe in something.
yeah, I'm a Capricorn, and there's a,
Oh,
I feel like
it's
anytime I tell somebody that who's like into astrology, they're like, okay,
it's
right.
almost your season.
Yeah,
Getting there,
yeah, like
close to
this
Capricorn
week.
season, right? Yeah.
So we're recording this in December, and my birthday is actually Christmas Eve.
Oh wow.
So yeah, so I'm on the early end of Capricorn, but I'm still stubborn as a goat, so it's still very applicable. But I loved that, and I loved how you talked about sort of believing in the universe, kind of looking out for you and that sort of thing. I believe in that as well.
Yeah, I just think there's too many coincidences or too many like weird things that have happened to be like everything's not practical and like all you can see is in front of you. It doesn't feel right to me. Like there's got to be a
Oh,
little bit of magic. Yeah.
yeah, 100%. I agree with that.
And if astrology is how you like can organize it into digestible sections, that's fine. It's funny, my girlfriend and my best friend are both Aquariuses, and they're
Mm,
so different. So it's like you can kind of see like how the tenets do and don't apply to people, and that's why Channing Nicholas always says take what resonates and leave the rest.
yeah,
And I
oh,
think
100%.
and
Yeah.
that's the key with astrology.
There's a lot of Capricorn that's like about money, and I never relate to that part of, like, I'm just like, I'm not all about, sugar daddies and all that jazz. I'm like, no. So I'll leave that.
Yeah, exactly.
That's awesome. So what's next? I know you said you're editing Lakeview right now. That's a feature, is it?
It's a feature, yeah. So it's about a friend group celebrating their friend's divorce.
Mm.
And so where the music comes in is that one of them has become like an indie rock star. And I used to say Phoebe Bridgers, but Phoebe Bridgers has gotten so famous that it's not applicable anymore. When I wrote it in the pandemic, it was, but now it's insane. So I say like Japanese Breakfast or the Weather Station or someone like that. So like that's her level. She would come sell at the Marquee.
Yeah.
And she's been in love with the person who's getting divorced her whole life, and now she's coming to like shoot her shot. So that's the movie. It's hard to pitch like Compulsus, lesbian vigilante. You're in or you're out. You know from those two words, but this one's like it's a character piece, like before sunrise, but gay. Like I don't. It's hard to pitch, so I've got to get better at it. But yes, we're editing that, and we're aiming for the fall festival circuit. So it takes
Sweet.
yeah, so it's about a 6 month kind of post-production period, and then I'll go back. I've had this very cool job with the Atlantic Filmmakers Cooperative for the past 4 years, which is running the Halifax Independent Filmmakers Festival, which is a small international festival that was online twice, hybrid once, and we finally went back to just fully in person last year, and we're doing that again this year. And it'll be at the bus stop at the end of May. So yeah, that's what I'm doing. And then I don't know, like I know I'm probably gonna get to tour with Compulsus when it goes to theaters, but I don't know when. And then if the movie gets where I want it to go, I'll go with that. But if it doesn't, I don't know. Like it's a very kind of I
Good.
have like 5 months where I know where something's going on, and then the rest question mark. It's
Yeah,
very
but it's kind of
stressful.
nice,
It's
probably. Like,
nice.
yeah.
Yeah, it's nice. I haven't had like a steady income in a few years, and it's like I'm over it. I'm
I
over
hear
it.
you. Listen, I go back and forth. I feel like I'm one of those if people were to follow my resume, it's like, I'm like, okay, I'm doing my own thing. I'm working for myself, and then all of a sudden I've got a paycheck and like I'm an employee at United Way. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
I just because sometimes it's like I can't work that contract life as much as I love it. Sometimes I can't, and other times I'm like, this is all I see for myself.
Yeah, this time last year I had a 9 to 5 and I resented it so much, even though it was like a job I really loved for an organization I really loved.
Yep.
I was just like, I am so mad that I have to be here
Yes.
8 hours a day. I'm mad.
Yeah. It really does. Like, yeah, there has to be flexibility and fluidity for me too. I think it's the creative brain in
Yeah.
us
I
that
mean, I worked at the coast for 19 years, but like it was a chill work environment. You like
yeah,
sometimes you had lunch for 2 hours, sometimes you didn't come in until 4. Like
yeah,
it was vibey where like the sort of the office thing, it doesn't work for me.
agreed. And, I just think about like, again, it's in that environment, the at AFCOOP or at the coast, it's like you're interviewing people every day, or you know what I mean? You're like the films you're watching are different every day. So even though
Yeah.
it's kind of the same, it's not really.
Yeah, or like folks are coming in and you have a good chat just like at work. Or
Yeah.
like, people the bosses are like, here's some beer or whatever. It's just like,
Yeah.
yeah, let's do that.
Yeah. After having worked for the Atlantic Film Festival when around
You
this
know about the beer.
time, yeah, I know all about the beer at the office. Yeah,
Yeah.
sure. Um, Music is a big part of your life too. And I am not a musician, but I also speak a lot about how music has helped me through mental health struggles and that sort of thing. I know you play, but also your chapter or your essay, sorry, on where you referenced Tori Amos, like
Mm.
brought me back again. The nostalgia was strong. Love, 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 love Tori Amos. So who are you listening to right now where you're like, this is who I go to really just put myself in a better headspace?
Oh, it's a
Or
good
play maybe
question.
play.
Well, to circle back to Phoebe Bridgers, the Boy Genius album was a big one this year.
Mm,
It's
yep.
called The Record. And like I love all of those women individually. So it's funny, I went to see Julian Baker in New York City in 2016 and Phoebe Bridgers opened for Julian in a duo and I was like, who the fuck is this and who cares? And I have no memory. I probably have one photo just to be like, I was here, but like I have no memory of it. And then, it flipped. And Lucy Dacus is, I think, the best songwriter of that group. And so those people, their individual music has meant so much to me, and for them to come together is amazing. And I've got the EP from 2018 or whenever it came out. But to be so popular, it's like to to rise and rise and rise. I actually want a Lucy Dacus song to end my movie, and every day I'm like, oh my god, Boy Genius is getting more famous. I am not going to be able to fucking afford this. It's like 6 Grammy nominations, SNL. No.
Yeah, that's a hilarious perspective, actually. It's like
Right? I'm
I
just
want
like,
you to
oh,
succeed. I love your music, but also I want to be able to
don't
afford you.
price me out. Yeah. So Boy Genius has been a big one. And I'm also a huge fan of Ethel Kane, and I'm like late on the Ethel Kane train. But she's just this amazing she hit off a song called American Teenager, which is it's sort of making fun of like good old boy country songs, and it's this total like indie rock banger, but then the rest of the album is like 7 minute piano dirges, and it's so emotional and it's really raw, and that's the record I probably listened to the most this year.
Can I
um
admit I don't know Ethel Kane? I've not
that's
heard.
cool. Yeah, I mean, I felt late when I came to her as well, but I imagine she'll have a new one out this year. I will say it was sort of a disappointing year. Both Mitski and Jenny Lewis, who I love them both, put out records this year, and they were both like kind of shruggers, and it's like it sucks. It happens to everyone, but you're like, I didn't connect to this. It's upsetting.
Yeah, that is hard. And I find like, and you kind of reference this a little bit in your book too, but like I find sometimes I can't stick with musicians necessarily through that. Like obviously they're going to change and evolve, and I'm changing and evolving too, and all of those things, but I do have
Yeah.
a hard time having that artist that stands the test of time.
Like the discography. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah. Unfortunately. I feel
Yeah.
bad
And I
saying
think
it out loud.
that's just life.
Yeah.
But it's okay. I don't think we need to feel bad
I
about it.
know, right?
But I'm just like, oh, a new Mitski record, and the last one was kind of meh too. And I'm just like, oh no. I don't know.
It's like I want to like you, but
Yeah. It's like this was the opportunity, and now I have to wait for the next one.
yeah, no, for sure. So, oh, that's cool. And you're playing still, yes?
Not really. So
Okay.
I it's become very, to circle back to our Halifax used to be cool situation.
I like this. It's
It's
coming full circle.
very, very hard to be in a band in this town. And the pandemic, I talked to a lot of friends about this. The pandemic really flattened out the like lower level, mid-level people. It's
Oh,
like if you didn't have a team going in, you probably don't have anything now. Like your momentum was totally stalled. And so, music has become more of a hobby for me. I put a lot of dance movie songs in the first movie. And so my running joke now is that if I made any more records, it would be to put music in movies for free.
not a
Um,
bad plan, actually.
no, it's not. But also, so the band played a show. We've been averaging a show a year, and like we did not play this year. The last show was last October. It was at the Seahorse, and they charged us $350 and 20% of the door. So
Mm,
we made $1,000, and I think we got 530 between 9 adults, some with children, you
right.
know? So
Yeah.
it's like I don't need to make money. It's okay. But like I don't want to pay any in.
Yeah, right.
You
Exactly
know what
right.
I mean?
Yeah.
So I also think just I turned to music in the first place because I've wanted to make movies my whole life, as you said, but like it's expensive, but you can start the day with nothing and end it with a song. So that's what I sort of turned to music and then focused on that for a while, and then that it never sort of went anywhere. So now I pivoted back to movies, but I also just think I'm 44. How many more songs about unrequited love can one person write?
I mean, some people
I,
made an entire living off of that, right?
yeah, so
Like
I do.
when they're miserable, their songs are better.
It's true. It's true. And I think that's the Jenny Lewis problem. Like, oh, you're not sad. So your record's just about like getting high or whatever. But I have been wanting to, speaking of New Year's resolutions, I have been wanting to get back into music. And part of it was because we had three musical, they're not sequences, but we had three musical scenes in Lakeview. And I felt the most confident working with those because I know that language. I know how to direct like people to wield a guitar or like talk about mix notes or sound check or whatever. Like I know that world, and I was just like, ugh, I miss. And like the actor was playing my guitar, and I was just like,
Mm,
ah, like I do miss it. But it's so hard. I'm just like, what am I supposed to do? Find three 18-year-olds who are just excited to play, or like dredge my band who's like 40 like me, 40 plus like me, and be like, hey
yeah.
guys, do you want to play the Seahorse for $50 each? Like, I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so, I think when you're describing that, it's the same way I feel about theater too. Because I
Right.
miss, like, I love being on stage, and it's been a
Hmm.
while since I have, but it's like, first of all, I'm a control freak. I have to know what I'm like. I almost like I have to produce it, but I don't want to produce it, like all of
Yeah.
those things. But I do really miss it. And when I go to theater, I'm like, oh, I really want to get back up there. So I get
Yeah.
that
I
100%.
mean, it's never over. It's
Yeah.
never over. I don't think for either one of us, but it's just not a current focus, but it is not my number one New Year's resolution is to like get back into music. Not necessarily play live, but just like play it at home. Like I have all these
Yeah.
guitars and they're just dusty as fuck.
Yeah. No, that's a
I
good
don't touch
one.
them. Yeah.
That's a good one. I always ask my guests this at some point is because I'm a quotaholic, so I love those little nuggets. And you can say that's bullshit if you like, and people have before, but do you have quotes that or a quote that you kind of go to where you're like, this kind of turned my day around, or this is really inspirational?
Nothing that comes to mind is like a talisman or a touchstone. I think I can always find a song lyric for something. Like if I'm having like a dramatic time with someone, I have often I'm like, I can't say it, but this song can. But no, there's nothing. I'm looking at my wall, my office here, but no, there's sort of nothing. There's nothing that that jumps out at me. I'm sorry.
Awesome. Oh God, you don't have to apologize. I remember one of my guests was just making fun of me, like saying like, "Oh, you've got one of those live, laugh, love things on your." I'm like, no, not that.
Quotes are amazing. And again, I open Lakeview with a quote from Lucy Dacus. I'm really trying hard with Lucy, and it's without you, I am surely the last of our kind, which is just about like I think like the movie's about friendship, so it makes sense to me to be like the connection is the point, and without it, then who even are you? So like quotes are important to me, but just in terms of like my day-to-day life, maybe not so much.
Awesome. Listen, Tara, I'm so glad we were able to connect. This has been a great chat. And thank you so much for overthinking with me.
Anytime. Thanks, Sam. Thanks for asking.
Thanks again to Tara Thorne for overthinking about learning to find joy with me. It was such a pleasure to chat with her, and I appreciate Tara's openness and honesty as always. Please check out her book, Low Road Forever. It is excellent. There's some great essays in there, and she of course has her movie Compulsus, and she has a new movie coming out next year, so I wish her all the best, and I hope that you'll check out all of the things. And I also want to thank the Mental Health Foundation of Nova Scotia for supporting this podcast. It's truly appreciated. Please feel free to subscribe to my podcast on YouTube and anywhere else that you get your podcasts. Thanks for listening.